Do you know what's the business? Settlers of Catan is the business. City's up! What do you want?
Brick.
You want brick? You're gonna have to pull for it. What the fuck? I will play a nizzle. Second City. We're on the road to nowhere, on the road to somewhere. Longest road, ship it to daddy. And another nizzle. Sizzle nizzle for the whistle. I am officially the settler of Catan. You guys want a place to live?
Yeah, fuck this shit.
The weather's miserable here again. Stuck in a little bit of traffic here on the freeway. Thought it'd be a good time to do a recap of last night's session. Last night was Friday night and I went in to the card room and I went out with $1,500 more than I came in with. So needless to say, it was a really positive, great session. I played 5-5 Big O, which is the biggest game that I play. And it only usually runs on the weekends here. What's this guy doing? Stay in this lane. Change lanes here. I'm very happy with the way I played. I played an 8.5 hour session, so that gets me slightly closer to my goal of 100 hours for the month. So of the last 4 sessions, I've had one losing session for $150. So on a little bit of a good streak here. Now honeys play me close like butter play toast, from the Mississippi down to the East Coast. It's Sunday afternoon now, and I'm heading in for another session. Hopefully put in a few hours today. Got a good 8-hour session in on Friday. Would like to do the same at a minimum today. We will see how it goes. Weather's nice, but I need to stay away and get in there and get grinding. Well, that was a letdown of a Sunday session. I played Hold'em for 45 minutes, and then the Big O game started and ran for 15 minutes before the game broke, and it did not start up again. Booked a $200 win in an hour, which is a great result, but I would have liked to play for a lot longer. And I didn't feel like playing Hold'em again, so I decided to call it there. Anyway, within the 45 minutes that I played Hold'em, I had one really interesting hand, which I thought I'd share. I straddled the button for $5, so the small blind goes first, then the big blind, and I have last action. There were 2 limps in middle position. I checked my cards and looked down at a pair of 5s. With a pair of 5s here, I think either raising or checking is fine. In this situation, I elected to raise, hoping to thin the field to heads up, and with the idea that I could outmaneuver my opponents in position. The first limper called, and the second limper folded. Let's take a flop. The flop comes down 10-8-4 rainbow. My opponent decides to lead for $37 into the $47 pot. This is a really strange bet to me. If he'd had an overpair, he would have raised pre-flop. If he has a set, like 4s or 8s, he's probably going to check the flop and hope that I continuation bet. So I'm not too sure what he has here. I guess he could have a 10. But again, I think with a 10, he probably elects to check and hopes that we will continuation bet our ace king, ace queen, ace jack type hands. So I'm not too sure what his bet means, and typically with these larger sizes in the small stakes games, it's often opponents just trying to get you to fold out whatever hand you have and for them to take down the pot right then and there. At this point, I don't mind either folding or calling. I don't like raising because we're not going to know what to do on a lot of different turn cards if our opponent calls. If our opponent shoves, then we pretty much just have to fold. Instinctively, I was leaning towards a fold just because this hand doesn't play very well on a lot of different turns. I did eventually make the call, with the plan being to reevaluate on different types of turn cards. I decided in the end to make the call just because my opponent wasn't really telling me a story that I believed, and my pair of 5s does have showdown value. So if he checks the turn, then I can check back and hopefully get to showdown cheaply. Let's take a turn. The turn is the 10 of spades. This is actually quite an interesting card. My opponent starts counting his chips, fiddling with them, and eventually puts out a bet of $78. I say it's an interesting card because we deduced on the flop that the only hand that he could really have that had us beat was a 10. And now that another 10 has hit the turn, it makes it less likely that he actually has the 10, and more likely, I guess, that he's bluffing. Instinctively, I lean towards a fold, just because when someone bets strongly into a already decent sized pot, they're usually trying to tell you that they have something. However, in this situation, it just didn't make any sense. I actually thought that every single option was reasonable. I thought folding was a reasonable option because absolutely he could have a 10 in this spot. I thought calling was a reasonable option because he can absolutely be bluffing and we could have the best hand. And I also thought raising was a good option for a couple of reasons. The first reason was that he could have like a pair of 6s or a pair of 7s, maybe even a pair of 9s, though I think he would have raised those pre-flop. But those kind of hands which he's just decided to play in a really weird way, and if we decided to call, then most likely we're going to check back every river that's not a 5. If he does have one of those pairs, then he pretty much has to fold if we shove all in on the turn. The other reason that I thought raising was a good idea is that there are a ton of 10s in our range, and if he doesn't have a 10, then he has to fold out all the hands which have equity against us. With that in mind, I decided that raising was the best option out of the 3, and I put in a raise all in. He thought for about 5 seconds and mucked his hand. Before I put the chips all in, it definitely crossed my mind that I might be lighting $300 on fire by shoving all my chips in there. But sometimes you just gotta go with the reads. After talking it through with a friend who suggested that he probably had Queen Jack, Jack 9 or something along those lines, a gut shot or an open-ended straight draw, I think those hands make a lot of sense in terms of the way that he played his hand and given that he folded. I'm guessing that was probably what he had. So yeah, poker analysis is pretty damn boring. That's why that is going to be probably one of the only hands that you see me analyze. I love talking about hands with people and bouncing ideas off people, but I think putting them into video format, it doesn't really do it for me. So you're not going to see too many more of those in my video blogs, I don't think. But yeah, let me know whether you enjoyed that or not. I don't know. I don't know whether you could see that on the back of that bus there. There was a billboard or advertising that said, "Do you need help with problem gambling?" Fairly fitting sign to have on a bus that I pull up behind as I'm on my way to the card room to go and gamble. here's the deal. I'm pretty disappointed in myself this morning. Last night I played a session and I did not play anywhere near my A game. I went into the card room around 6 o'clock. Within an hour, I'd already lost $500. I made a bunch of bad calls, a few bad raises, a few bad bets, and started chasing my losses a little bit. I ended up getting into the game for $835 overall, and I cashed out $550, which is a loss of $285. Given how I'd started the day and the fact that I was down over 600 at one point, I'm actually really happy with the result that I had in the end. There's no reason that it shouldn't have been a profitable day. That's the nature of the beast. There's no way that you're going to win every time unless you're some kind of super freak. Even then, luck is an element. So the thing about taking a loss like that is that you just got to put it behind you. So the $285 is gone. It's not my money anymore. Not a big deal. And we'll move on to today and play another session today, and hopefully it goes a little bit better. The last thing I wanted to say is thank you to those people that are watching the videos and gave me feedback. The feedback that I got was that people wanted to see the videos in widescreen as opposed to like this. Thank you to those people that watched and gave me feedback on that, so appreciate it. Thank you. I guess there's nothing left to do but finish up with some wise words from the master himself.
Consort, life is.